Advisor to the Israeli Prime Minister, Israeli Minister of Intelligence, Yuval Shteyniץ is with us. Sir, how are you? Welcome to the program. You know,
pleasure.
If you look at the ceasefire, this is pretty interesting to me because they had their tunnels, Hamas, they had their rockets, they had their infrastructure, they had some of their leaders. The same deal that they were offered, you know, so many weeks ago, they didn't take, now they're taking it. Is it because they really lost the war?
There can be no doubt that Hamas has suffered a very heavy blow to its military infrastructure, to its rocket stockpile and storages, to its terror tunnels leading from Gaza into Israel. There is no doubt about. But look, we didn't understand Hamas at first place. Only 3 weeks ago, suddenly, out of the blue, they began to launch hundreds of rockets every day into Israel and force us to fight back. They refused to accept the Egyptian proposal, as you mentioned, already 2 or 3 weeks ago. And now they accepted it. Let's wait and see, you know, with such terror organization, with such barbaric attitude like Al-Qaeda, Hamas, ISIS, Boko Haram, you can never know what will be their next step.
But Hamas's charter calls for the obliteration of Israel, the killing of Jews. They say that, you know, that the Prophet Allah, bless him, grant him salvation, the day of judgment will not come about until the Muslims fight the Jews, killing the Jews. When the Jew will hide behind stones and trees, the stones and trees will say, oh, Muslims, oh, Abdullah, you know, there is a Jew behind me, come and kill him. So you say that you didn't know, but that's right in their charter.
No, we know the nature of this terrorist organization. And as I mentioned before, the basic ideology is not different from that of Al-Qaeda or Boko Haram or ISIS in Iraq. We didn't understand why they started one day out of the blue only 3 weeks ago. Of course, they suffered a very heavy blow, but still, I must say, we didn't touch the core of the problem. The core of the problem, you know, people should ask themselves, why we are fighting in Gaza and not in Nablus and Ramallah? The answer is very simple. Because Nablus and Ramallah remain demilitarized. Because nobody has smuggled thousands of Iranian missiles and rockets into Nablus, and nobody has launched them from Nablus into Israel. So the core of the problem is that we have got a clear Palestinian commitment signed by Abu Mazen, by the Palestinian president on the White House lawn, that Gaza and the West Bank will remain demilitarized forever, come what may, and it was not kept. Therefore, the core of any genuine solution should be the demilitarization of Gaza. This is the only way, you know, to prevent terrorism and to enable a good standard of living for the people of Gaza once more.
The problem is to get demilitarized area of Gaza, you also have to have the world community join with Israel, and as the Prime Minister said today, ostracizing Hamas as a terror organization. We saw during this conflict there was mysterious reluctance and resistance from identifying, you know, who the bad guys were here, who the terrorists were here. So how do you do that based on that political environment?
Yeah, I must tell you, I was surprised by, for example, the statement of former President Jimmy Carter that says that it legitimates Hamas's legitimate organization.
Legitimate political organization.
Yeah, I wonder if he would say so also on Al-Qaeda, or it's only okay to fight against Israel, but using terrorist methods like sending suicide bombers, like launching rockets into civilian Israeli cities, or those who are fighting United States like Al-Qaeda or Boko Haram, who is fighting in Central Africa, are also legitimate organizations. But I must tell you that we do appreciate the very clear statements, both from America by President Obama and John Kerry, and from the European foreign ministers, that they say that Gaza should be demilitarized. And this is appreciated. This is appreciated.
What about the United Nations? You had an Israeli top diplomat, the foreign minister, saying that before the UN criticizes Israel, it should make sure its facilities are not being used to encourage terrorist activity. The Prime Minister today actually spent time showing how humans were being used as shields by Hamas in this conflict.
This is an ugly tactic. And, you know, we, Israel, we really are sorry for any civilian casualties in Gaza. We didn't want this round of violence at first place. We accepted the Egyptian proposal for a ceasefire already 3 weeks ago, and they force us to fight against them in densely populated
But
areas.
look what happens when Israel goes to the United Nations. I've said for years that I believe it is an anti-Semitic, anti-American organization, and the United States spends a lot of money helping to fund that organization. A mistake?
No, this is true. Look, two things even the UN admitted. One, the first is that they discovered in 3 different occasions, in 3 different schools, a stockpile of rockets. And they asked Hamas to take them from the schools. But they discovered in 3 cases, I can tell you, in many schools and hospitals, rockets were storage and sometimes launched from the school or from the schoolyard into Israel. So what can we do? We have to protect our people. Can we tell our people, look, we have the right of self-defense, but if they are launching rockets from civilian neighborhoods, we can do nothing about it? Secondly, the same Ban Ki-moon 1 year ago admitted that there are double standards against Israel in all UN organizations, like the Human Rights Organization,
right,
and that this is wrong. And suddenly he's joining the same attitude. You know, also the United States and Britain and Russia and many other countries has to fight sometimes fanatic Islamic terror organizations like Al-Qaeda and so on and so forth. And there were civilian casualties. And nobody asked to investigate the United States or Britain or France after you're fighting in Belgrade, in Serbia, or in Iraq, or in Afghanistan. And unfortunately, there were civilian casualties there as well.
Everywhere. Yeah. Everywhere. All right. Thank you for being with us. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And coming up tonight, an arrest has